stand up for the wine. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav ve'eretz avanu. Shabbat kosho be'ahava u'ratzon hineni lanu. Zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehila le'mikra'e kodesh, zecher letziyat Mitzrayim. Kivanu b'charta ve'tanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon kinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. I am fine.
Okay, we're on page 6. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have come to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of the synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Please turn to page 10. Join us in singing Hine Matov. Hine Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov U'Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Page 20 for Lecha Dodi.
1259.
Whatever you like.
Okay. We are going to join together in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we get to that final verse of Lecha Dodi, where we say, Boli Shalom, we welcome in the Sabbath bride. We can rise if you're able, and face the entrance to our sanctuary. That'll be at the very end. Not yet. La 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 Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kabbalat, Mepnei Shabbat Kabbalat. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kabbalat, Mepnei Shabbat Kabbalat.
to our Shabbat evening service. I'm going to read from page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer. Thank you, sorry. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest my routine set my ways. I'm going to move to Barclay on page 28.
Continue with our call to worship. If you are able, please rise. We'll join together on page 28. Can all be seated?
O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet further than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. So let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence.
Let's continue on page 31.
Read.
Yeah. That's okay.
Missed my cue. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Amar Riv Aravi.
Please join me and read responsively. At the bottom half of page 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol.
All these things your Torah gives to us.
And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives.
What could be a truer token of your abiding love?
Then this holiest of your words and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Continue on on pages 34 and 35 with Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam V'ad.
In the Via Havta on page 36 and 37. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart. Please join me, with all your soul and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God.
All right, we're going to continue with Michamocha on page 40, our song of freedom. Join together. Maybe one of Debbie Fruin's actual greatest hits, I don't know. Do you all want to sing with me?
Yeah,
All right, let's do it.
want to sing with you.
And we're going to continue on page 42 with Hashkivenu, which is our prayer asking for God to create a shelter of peace over us. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidinu Shoreinu L'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidinu Shoreinu L'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidinu Shoreinu L'chaim. At the bottom, Baruch Atah Adonai HaPareis Sukat Shalom Alinu Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael Ve'al Yerushalayim Ve'al Ha'olam. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, over Jerusalem, over the whole world. And we are going to turn our attention now to the Amidah, which begins on page 46. Joining with the words from our psalm, praying for the ability to pray. If you are able, please rise. We'll join together facing east towards Jerusalem. Adonai Sephatai Tifta Rufi Akite Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Hastei Avot v'Imahot, Levi Gula Lifnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrasa. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mefayeh HaKol atah Rav Le'Hoshia, Mashik HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechapel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Tomech Noflim Berofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Milchamo Kabal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Lemid Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shem hakadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahadu v'selah, Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We're going to continue with silent prayer using either the words of the prayer book of the Siddur or whatever is in your heart. You can be finished whenever you're done. Middle of page 62, we'll join together. Yehi l'ratzon, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and our redeemer. Yehi l'ratzon, imrei fi, ve'gam libi lefanecha. Adonai tzori, Adonai
Over the last few weeks, our Torah portions have followed the story of Abraham, his descendants, and the covenantal blessing that is passed down in each generation. We opened this week, Vayetze, with Jacob fleeing to Padan Aram, the land his mother Rebekah came from. He's escaping the life he grew up into after following his mother's directions to trick his elderly father and steal his brother's blessing. Simple, right? The blessing is effectively the only thing that we know that he takes with him when he runs. The blessing that nations will bow to him, that he will be the master over the brother who is trying to kill him, and that God will grant him abundance. And Jacob flees until he gets to Padan Aram, and he finds his mother's family. He meets his cousin Rachel and breaks down in tears, presumably over how relieved he is to be safe with his relations. But of course, he's not safe from family drama. He stays there with his uncle Laban and Laban's daughters Leah and Rachel a month without anyone talking about what the whole arrangement is, which, by the way, if you consider Laban's perspective in all this, sometime in his youth, a servant of Abraham showed up from Beersheba looking for a wife for Isaac. Laban's own sister Rebekah had been courted in high fashion with gifts given to family members, but like in the space of like a day, and then she'd ridden off on camelback to go live in the land of Abraham. Now Jacob shows up with nothing and just sort of hangs out for a month. Laban finally forces the issue, asking Jacob what he wants for wages. Jacob offers to serve for 7 years as the bride price for Rachel, Laban's youngest daughter. And Laban on the page seems to agree, but he doesn't actually go quite so far as to say yes. He says that it'd be better to give her to Jacob than to an outsider, and he bids Jacob to stay with him. There's an implied agreement there, but he doesn't actually go so far as to say yes and sort of leaves himself a loophole where maybe he's not actually technically breaking commitments when 7 years later he substitutes the older daughter, Leah, as Jacob's bride. Then he gets Jacob to agree to another 7 years of service in exchange for Rachel's hand for real this time. The next time that wages come up, Laban appears to agree to Jacob's stated price, all the speckled and spotted portions of Laban's flocks, but it reads like he then immediately moved all of those animals as far away from Jacob as he could possibly manage. At that point, everything gets really contentious really quickly, and before we know it, Jacob is taking his wife, kids, flocks, and once again hightailing it out of a place that no longer feels like home. It's a narrative foil to how the parsha opens, because his material circumstances have changed, but Jacob has once again made choices that result in him fleeing from a confrontation with a family member. Laban pursues him. Laban catches up with him. Laban and Jacob both credibly accuse each other of having done harm, and they make a kind of non-interference pact. The dissonance and distance between what Laban says throughout this and what we see of his actions was really interesting to me this year. He speaks in a way that implies agreement, then changes the terms of the deal. He tells Jacob that he knows he's been blessed by God on Jacob's account, then seems to make it as hard as possible for Jacob to also benefit from that blessing. He speaks like someone who loves Jacob, but he acts in such a way that Jacob eventually feels he has no choice except to flee. How do we square that? There's a midrashic story about the exchange that occurs when Jacob first arrives. There's a brief mention in Genesis 29:12 that Jacob tells all to Laban. The Midrash suggests that Laban hears at that point how Jacob tricked and used deception to secure his blessing and decides to go on the offensive and out-trick the trickster. In such a reading, maybe Laban sees their relationship as a zero-sum game or a competition with winners and losers, and he assumes that one party taking advantage of the other is the natural conclusion. But I think it's fascinating that there's a plausible version of Laban in this story who genuinely thinks he's doing what's best for Jacob, for the whole family, the whole time. Maybe when Jacob told all when he first arrived, Laban was shocked and sympathetic. His sister's son shows up, possessionless, with a story that he's on the run to escape his own brother's bloodlust as a result of a mix-up about who was supposed to inherit a blessing from their father. What did Laban send his sister off into? In such a world, maybe the object lesson about the importance of birth order is Laban's way of trying to instill values in Jacob. Maybe the multiple changes of wages are an attempt to convince Jacob to stay here in Padan Aram, where nobody's threatening to murder him. I certainly don't think that's the only reading, but we hear Laban say mostly very loving things, so I don't think it's a stretch to say that he could well have thought he was being loving in all of this, which of course wouldn't make the anguish that Jacob feels any less. Someone can be genuine and wrong and harmful. In the potentially ironic words of Christian apologist C.S. Lewis, of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. Sometimes people who are trying to do the right thing for what they think is the right reason are the hardest to stop because they think they're doing the right thing. In fact, Laban features briefly in the common Pesach Haggadah Megid, or narration. We say, "Go out and learn what Laban the Aramean tried to do to Yaakov our father," nearly in the same breath that we talk about the Pharaoh of Egypt, like the one who's responsible for trying to keep our entire people enslaved. Same breath as that guy. The one whose soldiers we celebrate getting thrown into the sea multiple times on each Shabbat. That guy and Laban are both examples of the ones who rise up in every age to destroy us. And I think that can coexist with a Laban who's genuinely trying to love Jacob. So when Jacob flees from Laban's home, Laban, with whatever intentions he may have had, sets out to track him down. And Laban has a dream that he attributes to God, Jacob's father's God, our God, not his own idols, telling him not to attempt anything good or bad with Jacob. And so there's this version of the story where maybe we think that Laban knows he's the bad guy and he's going out to capture Jacob like the Pharaoh went to capture the Israelites, and he gets a talking to that wakes him up and sets him straight, gets him ready for the sort of truce that he and Jacob arrive at. But as I've mentioned, I think there's also a version of the story where Laban is, however misguidedly, trying to do the right thing, and God still has to step in and tell him to cool it. The instruction doesn't care about the nature of Laban's motivations. Whether he's planning a good thing or a bad thing, he's told he shouldn't do it, because no matter what his intentions are, Laban has kept making the situation worse, more contentious, and more destabilized. And that really struck me this year. How many times did I, as a teenager, look at my parents and want to demand that they stop trying to improve my life? How many times have I given up on a relationship because I didn't really feel seen? And how many times have I turned around and done the same thing to others, made decisions on their account, altered the choices that I present to them because I think I know what's best, or otherwise undermined their autonomy while firmly convinced that I'm acting out of love? So, even if he set out with only love in his heart, by the time Laban catches up with Jacob, he's come to the realization that he needs to stop trying to control Jacob and limit Jacob's options. He attributes this to a dream from God, but I think another key element is seeing the consequences of his actions. When Jacob flees, the text says, "Vatignov Rachel et haterafim asher leaviha." Rachel stole her father's idols. And it says, "Vayignov Yaakov et lev Lavan." Jacob stole his heart by taking away his children and grandchildren without a chance to say goodbye. Maybe it was that, the abrupt loss of his family, that finally woke Laban up to the need to change his ways. So, this Shabbat, may we all learn from Laban. May we learn to see when the impacts of our actions are not consistent with our true values and stated goals. And may we do it while there is still time to start making different, better choices. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Liz. That was excellent. We now turn to that time in the service where we pray for the healing of those in our congregation and those in our extended families and those around the world. The Mr. Bayrock is on page 253. I will read the list of our people who are on the list, and then I will ask for anybody in the congregation or anybody out there watching on the live stream broadcast to write it into the chat. Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Amy Thornton, Stacy Hetzel, Diane Turner, Jacqueline Tara Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Vadim Barzam, Jill Forleo, Ellen Gottlieb, Vanessa Bianco, Paul McCready, Janelle Cohen, Glenn West, Jesse Early, Andrea Gurovich, Carl Wilhite, Ginny Gaston, Cindy Balin, Joe Dover, Patty Newby, Adrian Helander, Barbara Laird, Marion Laird, Michelle Arrigo, Frank Allen Coons, Joni Michaels, Myron Bromberg, Randy Hyde, Martin Kornblue, Joe Giordano, Neil Fenichel. Does anybody else have any other names to add? Thank you.
Those in need of healing, with your food wash flame on, the renewal of blessing, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please turn to page 61 and join with me in the words at the top of the page. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praise are you, Eternal One, blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamarech et amo Yisrael ba'shalom. And I wanted to include a prayer for Israel in our service. So I got one that's a more modern version of the prayer that's sometimes in the Reform prayer book, and it's written by Anat Hoffman, who's the executive director of the Israel Religious Action Center. My God, in this sacred moment, give us hope for Israel and her future. Renew our wonder at the miracle of the Jewish state. In the name of the pioneers who made the deserts bloom, give us the tools to cultivate a diversity of Jewish expression in Israel. In the name of our fallen soldiers, give us courage to stand up to the words and the ways of zealots, those in our own midst and those among our neighbors. In the name of Israeli inventors who have amazed the world with their innovations, help us apply the same ingenuity to finding a path to peace. In the name of all these individuals, grant us the strength to conquer doubt and despair in Israel, replacing doubt with action, replacing despair with hope. And let us say, Amen.
Yep.
Okay, So Aleinu on page 283, please rise, if able, or rise spiritually.
Aleinu l'shabbat
I'm sorry. Can we take it?
hakol, la'tetu la'letzer breshit, shelu samcha pinu li'akadet shemo, v'kor aleinu l'hamlit malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachvim u'modim, lifnei melech malkei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol ha'aretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo,
You may be seated.
When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. At this time, we mark the recent passings of Robin Nolan, Julian Ryder, Bill Gisser, Harold Alexander Weinbaum Jr., and we also mark the Yortsites of Sanford Altschul, Albert Barrow, Baruch Ben G. Dorfman, Philip Mayer Green, Marcia Schwartz, Eric Bosson, Esther Sura Wieselman, Alan Waldbaum, Verna Weigel. Does anybody have anybody else to add? Thank you. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yishkadash shemei rabbah. Yalma divrachirte v'yamlik malchute. V'chayechon v'yamechon v'chaye d'kol Beit Yisrael. Kabbalat v'zman karim v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah v'varach le'olam umei amayno. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitlamam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'elam im kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiram be'oma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'namav. Hu yasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom b'Rama, Osei shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu,
announcements.
This, is this Sunday?
Very few opportunities left as a board member to do
Oh, yeah. This Sunday is Makerspace, right?
Nope.
Nope, okay.
December 3rd.
December 3rd.
Yes.
Pretty soon, we're gonna be making latkes because there's a holiday coming up called Hanukkah. So,
Also on December 3rd.
also on December 3rd is when the latkes are gonna be made.
Right.
And then there is a Shabbat dinner the Friday after that, which is the latke dinner. And so you want to make sure that you sign up for that. And I don't know what else. Is there anything else? Anybody know anything?
That's great.
I'm gonna repeat that on the mic, just for anyone on the live stream who wants firewood. Let us know. Let Lisa know, and we'll arrange, we have a lot of wood. Thank you.
And on December 24th, we will be celebrating Jewish Christmas with a movie and Chinese food dinner. So information will be coming out on that. So make plans to be there.
Just come every day.
Right. And
So, good stuff.
thank you, everyone, for helping us have a service this Friday night. Thank you, Rabbi, for being here.
Come back tomorrow, help us make the
Yeah,
menu.
there'll be more Shabbat tomorrow.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. We're gonna sing Odiavo, which I believe is on page 353. No? Yes. No? In my head, that's what. Yeah. Wow.
It's good.
Odiavo shalom aleinu. Odiavo shalom aleinu. Odiavo shalom aleinu.